researchers that there is a secret government within our government. While that may be hard to believe coming from the UFO perspective, we've certainly learned in Watergate and the Iran-Contra scandal that factions within our government can and do pursue their own hidden agendas outside of the law, outside the control of Congress, or the knowledge of the American people. This is exactly the type of operation we'll hear about tonight. It's a chilling scenario with worldwide implications that may have its roots right here.
They say we've barely left low Earth orbit, but what if that's just the cover story? Whistleblowers claim we've had bases on Mars for decades, ships the size of cities, and technology that bends the rules of physics. Tonight, we'll follow the trail of black budgets and vanished scientists into the heart of the secret space program. Welcome to the Common Anomaly Podcast. I, of course, am your host, Stuart James. Joining me today is Clayton James. How's it going, brother?
It's going all right.
Yeah, you still sound a little sick.
Yeah, I got really sick this week, so...
Man, you're really taking some punches, hey?
Yeah, and it's once again, it's all your fault.
Sorry. What am I going to do? We got to get this done. We got to be here every week. What are we going to do? So I'm sorry you're suffering.
I'm doing all right though. I'm getting better. I'm past the worst of it.
And I appreciate you being here. You've been a trooper. You're showing up every weekend. Even though I know it sucks. When I was sick, it's really hard to get your head on straight and kind of put those feelings aside and that stuffiness and just try and focus on the topic. But we've got a really fun episode today. I'm excited to dig into this stuff. It's kind of a natural following on point. We're kind of inspired by our last couple episodes, hey?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like it kind of, we reused the opening from our Bob Lazar episode. You've been doing some really awesome custom openings for the episodes, by the way. And that's the first one that I'd made. I don't think I haven't done any custom ones since, but you've been making some really great stuff with the custom openings.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, that one just felt appropriate. It feels like we are circling back and coming around to this idea of this. I feel like it all connects, you know?
Yeah, and I have a feeling Bob Lazar's name will come up in the conversation too.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so secret space program, what is that? So basically, this is the idea that what is publicly known about our ability to travel through space and the technology that's available to us for exploring the solar system and perhaps beyond is basically the watered down version of what's actually going on.
It's the cover version.
That's right. And actually far more advanced technology has been being developed by militaries and by private companies. And they're basically breaking away from Earth's civilization and they're traveling the stars and we're kind of left behind holding the bag, hey?
Yeah.
So we're going to get into it. So I think there's kind of one central player that everybody focuses on right away. It's kind of the most glaring piece of evidence that shows up right away when you start digging into the secret space program. And that would be Gary McKinnon.
Yeah.
Really fascinating story. So do you want to talk about Gary McKinnon?
Yeah, so Gary McKinnon, he's a fellow from Glasgow, Scotland. Bit of a computer hacker, bit of a loner, bit of an awkward guy. Did a lot of jobs in IT, and he was also very much an avid follower of, conspiracy theories, UFO sightings, things like that. So he made it his project that he wanted to hack into U.S. government computers.
Yeah.
And his goal was to find evidence of extraterrestrials, UFO sightings that was being covered up by the U.S. government. And this was back in between 2000 and 2001. Anyway, he was actually able to successfully hack into, 97 government computers across NASA, the Pentagon, the U.S. Army, the Navy, the Air Force. And, this was back in 2000, 2001. IT SecOps wasn't quite what it is today.
Yeah.
He was able to hack into these computers because they were not password protected.
Yeah, they weren't protected. Digital security was not developed.
I find that mind-boggling. That,
it is mind-boggling.
That these military computers were not password. Even at my job, this happened this week. At my job, I had one of those moments where I was in a rush and I was logging into my computer at work.
Yeah.
I was in a rush because there was someone like standing at my desk waiting for me to do something. And if I don't do it quickly, another person comes behind them and another person, another person.
Yeah.
I've got a lineup forming. So I'm going fast. And I had my caps lock on. So I typed in my password really fast. It didn't work. I'm like, why isn't this working? And then all of a sudden, like after 3 or 4 times, it's like your account is locked.
Right. Yeah. Now you can't do anything.
Now, time was, even a few years ago, if your account was locked, you would just have to wait a few minutes for your account to unlock. Not anymore.
No.
Not anymore. Now you have to email IT support. From what computer? I can't get into my computer. So it becomes this hour-long ordeal of having to get someone else to email for you and wait for them to phone you and walk you through getting back into your computer.
I can definitely relate. Like, cybersecurity has gotten so intense and like, we're a non-for-profit where I work, right? We're not doing anything important.
Yeah.
Right? But security is so crazy. Every 5 seconds you're getting stopped. You have to reset something. You have to authenticate like 3 different ways to get into anything. Yeah, and I blame it kind of on integrated systems. Yeah. Right? Like our payroll and our HR has to be all integrated and everybody's got a profile. So of course they take the security of that really seriously. All your information is batched into one place on these profiles they have on everybody. Mm-hmm. Right? If it was segregated, if it was siloed, you wouldn't need that intense security just for your payroll system for people to punch in, punch out. Anyway, we're going on a crazy tangent.
Anyway,
just the U.S. government had really shitty cybersecurity.
The Pentagon has computers that are not password protected back in those days. So he hacks into these computers over the course of several months.
Yeah.
And what does he find? A lot of it is very banal stuff.
Yep.
Just boring, budgets and numbers and
spreadsheets.
Boring stuff. But anyway, mixed in with all that,
he hit pay dirt.
Yeah, he found a couple of really interesting spreadsheets. One of them was titled Non-Terrestrial Officers.
Yeah.
And he finds a list of names, and these are names with U.S. military ranks.
Yeah. Like majors, colonels,
non-terrestrial officers, which seems to imply
that could be 2 things. Right?
Yeah, that could be human officers serving off-world, or it could be alien officers serving here on Earth.
Yeah,
that name could imply either of those.
It's funny how just boring that piece of evidence presented, right? And that's how you would expect to find it, right? It's just a matter of fact, Excel spreadsheet. Here's our list of people that are serving and on what ships, too. There was a list of ship names, which he then obviously tried to cross-reference, and they didn't belong to any known naval vessels that he could identify. Yeah,
that was on a separate spreadsheet called Fleet-to-Fleet Transfers, which was in the same folder as this non-terrestrial officers spreadsheet. And it contained a list of ships, and he did some internet searches. I mean, obviously the scope of his ability to search on the internet for such things back then is not what it is today.
Yeah, it would have been very limited.
He did attempt to kind of find these ships, and they did not exist as far as he could tell.
Yeah.
So he's got non-terrestrial officers, fleet-to-fleet transfers of ships that do not exist in the public record.
Yeah.
He logs on to another computer terminal, this one at NASA.
Yeah.
This computer terminal on its desktop, it only has 2 folders. One is called processed, one is called unprocessed. Now, he had recently read that NASA, edits and processes and touches up a lot of the images they release to the public. We can go into that later.
I'm sure
it is something they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they do that anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it is confirmed that is something they do.
Yeah.
For what reason? Who knows? But he clicks on the folder that says unprocessed. He wants to see some raw images of, that NASA has captured. And he finds one really interesting one, and he says it's a picture taken from Earth orbit. In orbit of Earth is this giant cigar-shaped craft.
Yeah.
Is it extraterrestrial?
Did it have a swastika on the side?
No. He said it didn't have any markings on it. Is that extraterrestrial, or is that one of ours? Is this our non-terrestrial officers?
Right.
Who knows? He attempts to download the image.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to just see it. He wants to download a copy of it so he can share this information. This is what gets him caught.
Yeah.
Though. This is what gets him caught. Someone at NASA notices this file transfer happening and disconnects the computer from the network before he can finish downloading the image. And, of course, a little while later, his door is busted in. He's arrested.
Yeah. Big trouble. Yeah, actually, researching him, I thought it was interesting. I just kept landing on news and stories about his extradition.
Yeah,
right?
That became a big story too.
Yeah.
In and of itself.
It's actually a landmark kind of legal case.
Yeah, that whole thing led to the extradition treaty between the UK and the United States being amended.
Yeah.
Because it became this huge uproar in the UK because the US wanted him extradited because they were claiming he caused $700,000 worth of damages to government computers, and he disrupted military operations. And this was right after September 11th.
Yeah.
He disrupted military operations, and the UK was basically like, evidence. What is your evidence? But under the current extradition treaty, if the UK wanted someone in the US to be extradited back to them, they had to provide all the evidence.
Yeah.
There was no stipulation for, the U.S. wanting someone extradited from the U.K. So it was very one-sided.
Yeah.
And there was this huge public outroar over the...
And as Gary McKinnon points out in his own defense, he didn't hack anything.
No, they weren't protected.
These
in the first
computers
place.
were unprotected. He just went searching for computers that were not protected and found tons. If anything, he did these NASA and the U.S. government a huge favor by pointing out the massive security gap they had.
Yeah.
But obviously he was not able to download a photo. He can't reproduce these spreadsheets with the non-terrestrial offers. So McKinnon himself, for his story, has zero evidence. All we have is his say-so. The thing that lends the greatest bit of credibility towards him for me is the fact that they're still doggedly trying to get the guy extradited and arrest him.
Well,
when you become a political enemy, there's a reason for it. If there was nothing to it, why would they even put the energy into trying to get this guy, right?
The UK did eventually win that extradition battle.
Yeah.
And this escalated all the way up to President Obama and the British Prime Minister at the time. Well, this spanned 10 years. So I think by the time it ended, Theresa May was the Prime Minister. And the UK eventually landed on, we are not going to extradite him. I'm sorry, United States. No, you're not used to hearing no, but we are not going to extradite him. This probably actually did some damage to relations between the UK and the US for a time.
Yeah.
Because he was facing 70 years in prison in the United States. And the UK also eventually decided to not prosecute him at all. He's a free man, but I doubt he's going to the US anytime soon.
Totally, yeah.
Because
he's travel restriction. Yeah,
he's probably going to be arrested if he steps foot in the United States.
Yeah. So really interesting character. Great place to start, and maybe we'll just put a pin in that for now. I did have a quote from Richard Dolan. I was trying so hard to find a presentation by Richard Dolan this week because he's big into the secret space program and this kind of stuff, and he did a presentation at one of the Paradigm Symposiums that was excellent on this, following black budgets. So I tried to dig up some numbers on black budgets, classified military spending, right? And see if you can kind of deconstruct where this money went. Just the fact that there's so much money dumped into these programs that we know nothing about says, okay, engenders a question, what's going on there? What's happening in these programs? But Richard Dolan, I couldn't find the presentation I was looking for of Richard Dolan, but I did watch another one where he was talking in detail about Gary McKinnon's story. And he knows Gary, and he's spoken to him and interviewed him, and he describes Gary McKinnon as a person of great integrity. Mm-hmm. So as someone who's very knowledgeable and deep into the history of this subject, Richard Dolan seems to think Gary McKinnon is a credible person. So I thought that was worthy of note. But I thought maybe now we want to kind of dive into the black budget stuff and the military spending. How do you feel about that?
No, I'm good with that because, if we have these officers operating
They're getting
off-world,
paid, right?
where are we getting the money for that infrastructure?
How do we get the money to build the ships, right?
You know what immediately jumped out at me, and this was right around the same time as Gary McKinnon hacking into these computers. 2001, September 10th. Then U.S. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld holds a press conference, and he announces that the DoD, the Department of Defense, has completely lost track of $2.3 trillion of transactions.
Oops.
They have no idea where this money went.
Sorry, what date was that?
September 10th.
September 10th,
Yes.
2001.
Yes.
Interesting.
Just for perspective on how big a number that is, the entire current U.S. defense budget is $773 billion.
Yeah.
So this is a whole order of magnitude greater than that. This is like, well, not a whole. It's triple. It's basically triple the entire U.S. defense budget.
Yeah. And they just have no idea.
Oops.
Yeah.
It's gone.
What happened to it? Yeah.
And this is Donald Rumsfeld, where he's a fairly new defense secretary. Obviously, he's the guy that wants to come in and clean house. He's saying, our financial system is so chaotic and untenable. We've lost track of these entire streams of transactions.
Can you imagine what those figures look like today, 25 years later?
Oh, heavens. I don't know.
With the amount of printing and inflation we've seen. Those just got to be mind-boggling numbers. Yeah, I tried to look up some numbers, and I just got very surface-level stuff. I see that classified intelligence spending is basically broken up into two categories: National Intelligence Program, which is referred to as NIP, or Military Intelligence Program, which is MIP, which is DoD Intelligence Battlefield Support type stuff, right? And those combined in 2024 were at $106.3 billion. Now, $103 billion is a lot of money, but that seemed like lower than I was expecting, given that data point you brought of the $2 trillion of just missing dollars, right?
Yeah.
And so what I did find was a caveat that not every classified dollar is labeled classified in public books. Some are embedded within regular program lines. So public totals, the totals I just gave you, are considered the floor rather than the ceiling.
Oh, good.
All right. So 106 billion is the floor. There's really a lot more above that we just know nothing about. That's just not publicly recognized.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even go into private company partnerships and stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
This 2.3 trillion that Donald Rumsfeld's making a big deal about, it's never talked about again. It is never talked about again because what happened 11th, what happened the next day. Yeah. And a plane hits the Pentagon. You know where it hits the Pentagon? The west wing of the Pentagon. And what was in those very offices? The specific DoD offices that were investigating financial irregularities.
Yeah.
So all that work was completely destroyed in the September 11th attacks, and this $2.3 trillion is never brought up ever again.
Oops.
And I mean, this is just one of many oops moments we're going to have from the U.S. government as this story progresses.
Yeah.
Oops, we lost that.
So this feels like we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, right? All starting to look very suspicious. What does it all mean? What do you think? Sorry, I'm throwing you off course, aren't I?
Oh, no, that's quite all right. Well, I mean, this money's got to go somewhere. So where did it start? Where did this secret space program start?
Right.
Do you want to go back
to start
the very beginning?
Yeah.
The very beginning. So we're just coming off an episode on Operation High Jump.
Yeah.
Now, we know that at the end of World War II, that American government brought over a lot of, scientists from the Third Reich in something called Operation Paperclip. Mm-hmm. And that's where we got all our rocket technology. It goes back a bit earlier than that. I want to talk a little bit about the Vril Society.
Vril Society.
So,
All right.
Yeah, so we're going back to the Third Reich was very into occultism, occult practices. That was kind of the foundation of the Third Reich, was occultism.
Yeah.
You know, the German National Socialist Workers' Party was not founded by Hitler. It was founded by a man named Anton Drexler, who was a member of something called the Thule Society. Basically, like a very racist alternate version of Theosophy. And the Vril Society is basically an offshoot of the Thule Society. And it was founded in 1919 by this woman named Maria Orsich. Now, the Vril Society, unlike the Thule Society, it's mostly dominated by females. And it's very into mediumship.
Okay.
It's basically the mediumship arm of the Thule Society. Now, the Vril Society supposedly, so they claim, made psychic contact with extraterrestrials from the Aldebaran system.
Right.
In the Taurus constellation.
Not the Aldebaran system.
No, Aldebaran.
Aldebaran.
Some people pronounce it Aldebaran or something.
And I think that's probably just because in their brain they're hearing Aldebaran.
Yeah, but Captain Picard pronounces it Aldebaran, so that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Because the Enterprise goes there at some point. I know they do. Anyway, these extraterrestrials from the Aldebaran system supposedly transmit to Maria Orsich these blueprints, these plans, these concepts for this exotic technology, anti-gravity technology, free energy technology.
Okay, I want to be clear. You say this was transmitted, so she's getting all of this information via mediumship.
Yes.
Yes, so it's psychic download.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And this is in 1919.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, fast forward to the 1930s. The Third Reich is now in power, and the SS supposedly is doing all these tests on Vril-derived technology. You know, we talked about Die Glocke in the last episode and various other saucer-shaped anti-gravity craft.
Yeah.
Which found its way down to Antarctica at the end of the war.
Yeah.
And that's where we had Operation High Jump.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, this starts to sound like really crazy stuff, but I mean, we do have to recognize that Germans in World War II had the most advanced battlefield equipment on Earth, right? Their tanks were better than ours.
The
V2
V2 rocket.
Their rockets, their planes, they really had the U-boats. They really had an edge, a military edge in terms of their equipment.
I mean, you when you hear about the justification for Operation Paperclip, the V2 rocket comes up so much. Yeah. Werner von Braun and the V2 rocket. You know, Werner von Braun was specifically brought over and made a director at NASA. One of the first, not the director at NASA, but he was director of his own space center that developed Saturn rockets. Now, this guy, Werner von Braun, he developed the V2 rocket. V, not for Vril. In this case, V is for vengeance. That's what the V in V2 stood for. But, an aspect of Werner von Braun that doesn't get talked about quite enough. You know, he's a director at NASA. You know, he's not just some scientist that was in Germany during World War II. He was a true believer, member of the SS, personal friend to Heinrich Himmler. He's frequently seen in pictures together with Hitler, and his V2 rockets that he oversaw the construction of were built by concentration camp slave labor. That is an aspect that does not get talked about as much as you'd think. That man casts a very long shadow. Anyway, the V2 rocket, supposedly just the tip of a very, very large iceberg of exotic technologies that the Third Reich had access to
or
via the Vril Society.
Yeah. So whatever was coming from these psychic mediumship downloads, whatever, there must have been some juice in that squeeze. Hey, they must have gotten some kind of alternative physics understanding that it's actually materializing in these projects like Die Glocke and saucer-shaped craft.
And with Operation Paperclip, all that knowledge is imported into the United States. It finds its way into NASA. It finds its way into the Air Force. It finds its way into, projects like S4.
Yeah. S4 being where Bob Lazar supposedly worked on reverse engineering an alien spacecraft's propulsion system.
Yeah. All those craft Bob Lazar described seeing lined up in the hangars at S4.
Yeah.
Were all of those extraterrestrial craft, or were some of those from...
Maybe one of those was Diglocka.
Maybe one of those was something they recovered from the final battalion in Antarctica.
Yeah, maybe. Because he didn't get to... Like, everything was very segregated in terms of projects. He didn't get to know anything about any of those other craft. He only got access to the one craft he was working on, and he wasn't allowed to talk to anyone else working on any other projects. So
Yeah.
So it could have been anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of where the genesis of the secret space program is.
Yeah.
Is in Operation Paperclip. What exactly did the Third Reich have that was brought over? We know about the rockets. What else did they have that we don't know about?
Well, and I always found it curious. I mean, when people start speculating, just kind of the thought experiment that always comes up is like, why have we been stuck in low Earth orbit for decades and decades? We landed on the moon in the 60s and haven't been able to get back there. Sure, we had the space shuttle program, but again, never really went beyond low Earth orbit. And now it's even retired, right? So why did space exploration and the seeming technological rocket ship we were on trajectory just suddenly stall out and just stagnate, right? And I mean, a lot of people will point to budgetary issues, shifts in political rhetoric, and NASA's funding got slashed, and so they could only do certain things, and also just how the bureaucracy of NASA was run without projects going way over budget, not being able to get off the ground. It stagnated. Yeah. Right? Well,
I mean, our whole premise here is that the space technology we see is just the
it's the cover.
It's the cover. It's the old stuff.
Disney version.
That's not going to get the real budget.
Yeah.
That's not going to get the $2.3 trillion. What that's being used for is the actual space program.
Yeah.
What would be the motivation, by the way, to keep such things secret?
Okay, yes, I had this question. Why have a secret space program? And the obvious answer is that it was recognized that space was going to be the next military theater of the future. The world wars really brought us into an era of warfare where suddenly air command became how you won a war, right?
Yeah.
Because how fast you could advance your aircraft, that gave dominance over everything, right? So if your opponent was stuck on the ground and you had just had better aircraft, you were going to win the war no matter what, right? Because you had command in that theater, which it encompassed everything else.
Yeah.
So it was recognized as soon as we got into space, basically, in the Cold War, why was there this space race between the US and the Russians, right? Why was that the focus? Because that was good. They knew that was going to be the next theater of warfare that they would need strategic dominance within, right? So of course you don't advertise everything you're doing. Of course you hold back your best stuff, right? You keep it secret. You don't want your enemy knowing what your capabilities are.
Yeah. But, I feel like more recently that facade is kind of crumbling because
we're heading into a new world war. Right?
Yeah. And, NASA wasn't in charge of all of the US's space assets.
Yeah.
The Air Force was in charge of, quite a few as well.
Yeah.
A lot of them, top secret at the time. But now, recently, the U.S. has it's split that off from the Air Force. They have the Space Force now.
Yeah.
And we do have admitted potential weapons platforms in space.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk briefly about
I feel like the Space Force came out as kind of a bit of disclosure. Like, at some point, you do have to make the public aware about what's going on, especially if you end up having to use some of these assets. You want something in place. Do you hear anything about what's going on in Space Force?
No.
Like, who's running it? What are they doing? What are their projects? Do you know any of them?
I have one of their projects here.
Right? But it's
one of their projects.
You don't hear about it, right?
No.
And I think that's because there was probably a lot of stuff going on under a different label, Air Force, Navy, whatever, but it was space operations. And at a certain point, they'd be like, okay, if we ever end up needing to use one of these assets, we have to have a label on this thing to say, oh yeah, we were already doing that. We already had an infrastructure in place for these operations, right? And I think that's why it became urgent that we have a Space Force all of a sudden.
Yeah. But anyway, one of the Space Force's projects I want to talk about just real quick, the Boeing X-37.
Yes.
It's and you see this thing, it looks a little bit like the space shuttle, but it's about a quarter the size.
Yeah, space plane.
Yeah, it was first launched in 2010, and it's still actively going on missions. And it's meant to be launched on a Falcon rocket. So Thank you, SpaceX. And it can actually stay in space, just flying around the Earth for up to 2 years.
Yeah. It's got a payload capacity similar. It's not very big.
Yeah.
Like I got similar to the box of a pickup truck.
Yeah. So technically it's referred to as an orbital test vehicle.
Yeah.
Its specific missions classified.
Yeah.
We don't talk about what specific missions we're on. I was actually reading a paper.
Payloads classified.
Yeah. I was reading a paper recently. If I can find it, I'll send it to you so you can put it in the show notes. It's from like the Council of Concerned Scientists, and they were talking about the X-37, and they were saying, all the stated things that the XR-37 can do, or any of the hypothetical reasons we can think of that they would have it up there, you can do it far cheaper and far more efficiently on other platforms.
Right.
They're saying, why is this thing even there?
Unless there's a very specific use case that is just classified.
Well, here's the interesting thing about the X-37. It's unmanned. It's completely like autonomous, AI driven. Civilian space trackers have noticed that it often hovers in orbit over areas of geopolitical interest.
Right.
So is it a surveillance platform, or it does have a payload capacity?
Yeah.
There's no reason not to think that there is space enough in its cargo hold to hold several nuclear warheads.
Right.
That could be launched anywhere in the world without warning.
Yeah.
There would be no warning.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me, if I can take a little tangent, I wanted to jump into TR-3B in the same breath as the X-37.
Yes.
But
the
before we
TR-3B.
get there, just because of what you're mentioning in terms of those payloads, I was curious. Sure, obviously, the U.S. wouldn't be the only players in this game. Mm-hmm. So if the U.S. has a secret space program, that must mean Russia, China, India, other space-capable nations must have their own. And so I ran into, I'm going to butcher this, Berevskinik program, which is a Russian program, space-to-space interceptors. It's known, I guess, in the States as Skyfall, which will sound familiar. It's the name of a Bond movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically, just give me a moment I've got it on another page. Okay, so this is the Russian development missile designed to use a compact nuclear reactor for propulsion, granting it theoretically near unlimited range and the ability to evade missile defenses by flying unpredictable trajectories. NATO calls it Skyfall. It's supposed to have global reach and a long loitering time. So they can get it to orbit and it can just park and it can hang out until it's needed, such that it could circle its target before striking. Compared to the 1960s U.S. Project Pluto, which was, I guess, an equivalent program, another nuclear ramjet-based missile concept. So I just found this terrifying. There could be hundreds of these things in orbit. Basically cruise missiles parked, hanging out in orbit. They can stay there a really long time. They've got their own nuclear propulsion system, so they could have any kind of payload in terms of a warhead.
Yeah.
But they can actually strategically move around orbit, evade detection, evade interception from missile defense platforms to find their target. The purpose of this was to ensure that Russia had a second strike capability.
Mm-hmm. We hear so much about
terrifying stuff.
We hear so much about the nuclear triad, Both Russia and the United States have a nuclear triad. They have land-based ICBMs. They've got nuclear submarines out there at undisclosed locations, and they've got their strategic bombers.
Yeah.
But what if there's a fourth fourth arm to this now, a space-based one.
Yeah, that nobody talks about. The U.S. doesn't talk about theirs. Russia doesn't talk about theirs. It's all very behind the veil of secrecy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but terrifying capabilities. And I've got a lot of other stuff as well about China and their programs and India for satellite interception. Mm-hmm. So basically satellites that could be directed or have payloads to shoot down or intercept or destroy other competing nations' satellite networks or constellations.
So what you're saying basically is there's this whole quiet war going on in space that we don't know about.
Yes.
What are some of the other weapons we've got up there?
TR-3B.
TR-3B. TR
Astra.
for tactical reconnaissance, and 3B implying this is the third iteration.
Officially this plane does not exist.
Officially. This
is pure internet speculation, rumor. This is not a real plane, right?
I wouldn't call it rumor. It's not officially confirmed or denied.
Right.
But there's stuff out there. So what is the TR-3B Astra? That's the code name for it, Astra, implying it's space capable. So the TR-3B is basically what's called an all-theater craft. It can navigate within the Earth's atmosphere. It can also travel into outer space.
Transmedium. Is that still considered transmedium? Just like if you had a spacecraft or something that could operate in the water, but then also on land or in air.
Yes. So what exactly is this craft? Well, it's described as a black triangular shaped craft.
Yep.
With 3 lights on its underside on each corner.
Yeah. Black triangle.
Yeah. Sounds like a UFO, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these things have been seen.
Yeah.
Called UFO sightings, but there are some that say those aren't extraterrestrial. Those are ours, actually.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of the Phoenix Lights incident.
Yeah.
Which is the most... Pardon me, I'm going to find a quote.
Okay.
I got nothing in order here. I must have lost that page. I don't think I have it. I had a whole page on the Phoenix Lights incident. Anyway, one of the biggest, most famous UFO sightings in history. Mm-hmm. Right, especially in the U.S., very much V-shaped craft. I forget what year was it. 97?
I don't recall.
I don't know how I lost that page.
It's okay.
But anyway, Phoenix Lights could have been TR-3B or a variant of similar type craft, right?
So supposedly the TR-3B has been in operation, or some version of the TR series of craft has been in operation since the 80s.
Yeah.
And so what is it exactly? How does it work? This is an anti-gravity craft.
Yeah.
Right? Based on things that came before, like Digloka, real society technology.
Yeah.
How does it work technology? In theory, it operates, supposedly, on something called a magnetic field disruptor system, which is basically a plasma-filled accelerator ring that spins around the outside of the craft, creating a localized gravity distortion, reducing the craft's effective mass by 90%. And this gives it the ability to hover in the air, hover completely silently in the air, travel at insane speeds, faster than any of our, conventional aircraft, make these sharp right-angled turns, these impossible maneuvers.
Yeah.
And supposedly this is a craft we have, or not we, because we're in Canada, but the United States military has.
Yeah.
Yeah, been in operation since the 80s. There's been numerous sightings.
Yeah.
Numerous black triangle sightings all over the world. Yeah, supposedly they've been trying to develop this since way back in the 1950s. The 80s is when they finally launched their first stable version of it. But even prior to that, there's numerous sightings of similar craft. There's even an incident I want to talk about where one of these supposed test vehicles crashed.
Yeah.
It's called the Kecksburg incident. This is great if you haven't heard of it.
I've heard of it, but I didn't do any research on it for today's show. So
okay, so this is great. This happened in a town called Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, in 1965. One evening, 1965, this giant green flash is seen in the sky. It's insanely bright. It's seen by residents of 5 U.S. states and residents of southern Ontario. This giant green flash in the sky, followed by an object descending to Earth and crashing in the woods outside Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. Residents rush to the scene, and witnesses describe this acorn-shaped object, kind of similar to how Digloka is described.
Yeah.
This kind of, bulging, kind of cylindrical shaped object. It's got a bulge in the center. It's described as acorn-shaped metallic object, and it's got these strange symbols on its base and on its sides. It's described as looking like hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
Shortly after, the military arrives, cordons off the whole area, and they retrieve this object. The U.S. Army immediately denies recovering anything from this site. It's explained as the flash is described. It's explained as just a meteor that burned up in the atmosphere. That's what caused the flash.
Yeah.
The military was never there. The military never recovered any object. And the story is quietly buried. But, the people saw what they saw.
Yeah.
So, in myth and rumor, this story lives on. Fast forward to 2002. This journalist named Leslie Kean makes a FOIA request and forces NASA to admit that, this object was recovered outside Kecksburg, Pennsylvania in 1965.
Oh, wow.
And was sent to them, and that they studied this object. But you can't know more than that, because all our records, all our files on that, oops, we lost them.
How did they lose them?
We lost them.
Were they in the West Wing of the Pentagon?
Who knows? If we know where they went, they wouldn't be lost. We lost
Interesting.
them.
I didn't know that Leslie Kean's a great researcher and very well respected for her work in this direction. I didn't realize. I've got one of her books upstairs, I think. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that she had found verification of Kecksburg through a FOIA request. That's interesting.
Yeah, but isn't that just wild? This description of an object that looks just like, the Nazi bell.
Yeah.
The Nazis' prototype flying saucer.
Well,
crashes
we know
in
there's been a lot of
1965.
whistleblowers coming out about recovery programs. That most recent whistleblower, what's his name? Jake Barber.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That he was saying he was a helicopter pilot. That was his job. He was sent on crash retrievals, which he thought were of alien aircraft. Mm-hmm. Right? But what if they're just our own exotic craft, right?
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't be in the know. He's just a helicopter pilot, right? But he's seeing these strange craft that he's being sent to recover, right? Occam's razor would say that's probably our own exotic craft.
Yeah. And that's probably another reason for the secrecy is, obviously, if you consider the Kecksburg incident, a failed test flight.
Yeah.
This is them probably messing around with technology they don't quite understand. Hence the secrecy. Would you really want to make that public? We're even starting to see the same thing with AI. Because, we've talked about AI a lot in the past. I don't want to rehash all of that, but AI, very much a technology we're building that we don't fully understand. In the AI field, Mark Zuckerberg, he recently said the quiet part out loud. During an interview, he was saying that going forward, our most advanced AI models, they're not going to be shared with the public.
Right.
Public's getting, the older stuff, the less advanced stuff.
Yeah.
Our cutting edge stuff, we're not sharing that with the public anymore.
Right.
Probably because they're messing with things they don't really understand.
Yeah, probably because they think it's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they just don't want their competitors to get an edge over them if they've got something really advanced they're working on. Scary stuff.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, where do we go from here? You don't know, do you?
No, I don't know.
We're only at 50 minutes. We need a conclusion.
Give me a second.
I wondered if you found, because in my mind, Secret Space Program is really interesting, and I like, do you know the show Stargate?
Oh yeah, I know.
It's
Stargate.
Sci-fi 90s, very akin to like Star Trek and others, except their modus operandi, instead of being a spaceship, was this portal in Cheyenne Mountain.
Yeah.
That worked kind of like a rotary telephone. You dial up an address to some other planet, which all look like British Columbia for some reason.
Yeah.
But it was a fun show, and again, it had this same thing where they were working for a secret branch of the military with this recovered alien technology that gave them access to technology and advances in physics, which eventually, if you followed the show, they end up with a massive fleet of U.S. military spaceships.
Yeah.
That functioned to protect Earth from alien invaders, and the rest of the world was none the wiser.
Yeah,
right?
it's all kept secret.
Yeah, it's exactly the same idea. It's a really fun idea. And the natural endpoint of that idea is that you do have what you call a breakaway civilization.
Yeah.
Where these people that operate within this field of knowledge, they're living in a whole other universe than the rest of us plebes on the ground that know none of this is going on. And they'll develop their own unique culture and identity separate from the rest of humanity, especially if it's so advanced that we're spreading out into other planets within our galaxy.
Yeah, and after a while, this breakaway civilization, it becomes self-sustaining.
Yeah.
It becomes completely separate from the rest of humanity.
Yeah.
But one wonders, we've talked about where they get their money.
Yeah.
At least, their seed money,
Yeah.
because they eventually become self-sustaining. Where did they get their original personnel? Where did they get
Well,
their
they
original
would have
people?
to recruit from within, regular military ranks.
Yeah. So it's interesting. There have been some pretty high-level people who have just disappeared from NASA or died under very mysterious circumstances.
Yeah.
Did they actually die? Or were they recruited into something we're not seeing?
Ooh, interesting. Yeah.
Did you read much about Jack Parsons?
No, tell me about Jack Parsons. Name
So-
rings a bell.
Interesting guy. He was a NASA rocket engineer. He was the co-founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Very much a prodigy and a genius.
Yeah.
By day.
Right.
By night, he was an occultist. He was a follower of Aleister Crowley.
Okay.
He was the head of a lodge of the OTO.
Oh dear.
Now, supposedly, this is in 1952. He had somewhat fallen out of favor with the NASA establishment due to his perceived socialist leanings.
Right.
And one day in 1952, he goes to his home. He's got a little home laboratory, and he was doing an experiment in his home. And a beaker of very volatile chemicals slipped out of his hand, and his entire house exploded.
His entire house exploded.
His entire house just
By
exploded.
what was in this beaker?
I forget what exactly he was.
Napalm? What the hell?
He was mixing, but his house exploded.
Oops.
And not only was he killed, and I'm pretty sure I've read stories that his body was so badly mangled they didn't even bother trying to identify it.
Suspicious.
Like, who else would have been in that house? Of course it was him. And not only that, but apparently his mother was so distraught that over her son's death that she committed suicide the same day.
The same day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this guy and his mother
and any ties. Just snip.
just gone.
Yikes.
So
Curious.
is he someone who maybe knew too much and was silenced, or is he someone who didn't really die but was recruited into, the deeper levels of what's really going on in our space program? There's another one I want to talk about. Did you read that much into Apollo 1?
No.
The very beginning of the Apollo program. It's considered one of the...
Oh, you're going to do all the occult stuff.
Yeah,
Apollo occult stuff. Great.
Apollo 1 is considered one of the darkest days in NASA's history. So Apollo 1, it was going to be the first crewed Apollo mission.
Yeah.
Now, this mission was going to be crewed by... I got their names here. Virgil Grissom, Edward H. White, and Roger B. Schaff. Now, anyway, 33 days before the planned launch of Apollo 1, they were doing a test of the mission's capsule just on the ground. They were
right.
testing. They were
Yes.
testing
Yeah.
the capsule systems on the ground. Virgil Grissom, he had been very vocal to the higher ups at NASA, saying this capsule is not safe. We're in a pure oxygen environment,
Yeah.
and we're surrounded by all this equipment and things that could possibly cause
Electronics.
sparking. He's even
Yeah.
quoted as saying to his fellow astronauts, "This ends with one or all of us dying."
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
And they're doing just a test on the ground of this capsule, and something sparks, and the entire thing bursts into flames. All three of them are dead before they can even open the latch
Yeah.
on the
They would have
capsule.
been incinerated.
Yeah. Now, this is often, a lot of people consider this like just a horrible accident.
Yeah.
But some people consider this a ritual because Virgil Grissom, who was he? He was a 33rd degree Freemason. And he dies in this accident 33 days before the planned launch of Apollo 1. What else was going on? This was on the night of January 27th, 1967, while the constellation Orion was rising to the east. Orion, very important to the Freemasons. Freemasons, by the way, also a lot of overlapping beliefs with the Thule Society and the Vril Society.
Right.
Like all these secret societies
Yeah,
have so many tentacles within
they
NASA.
all connect in a
Anyway,
giant web.
Orion
Yeah.
is rising in the east this evening. The 3 stars of Orion. 3 deaths in this capsule 33 days before the planned launch. What else is going on in the sky? Mars and Saturn are both in Pisces. Pisces is considered the archetype of sacrifice. So you think Mars often seen to represent blood, and Saturn, we've talked a lot about Saturn, the lord of karma and death. So just the stars, the alignment of the stars is symbolizing this is going to be a blood sacrifice. Also, Sirius, the dog star, is visible in the east, often seen as the symbol of resurrection and rebirth. Actually, in the entire layout of Cape Kennedy, where this happened, we can go into this more in depth in another episode, but that whole layout of that facility is seen to symbolically be a Masonic initiation path or temple.
Interesting. Well, it occurs to me our next episode is our 33rd episode.
Yeah. Wonder what we should do an episode on. We'll leave that as a surprise.
Yeah. No, I love that stuff. It creeps me out a little. It spooks me.
But anyway, was Apollo 1, was that a sacrifice ritual? Or were these men really dead? Or were their deaths faked, and were they recruited into something else?
Yeah.
Even the alignment of the stars symbolically, and you've already made the comment, NASA frequently puts so much symbolism into their planned mission dates.
Yeah.
Sirius is visible in the sky, the symbol of resurrection and rebirth.
Yeah.
So these men are symbolically sacrificed only to be reborn as something else, perhaps being recruited into this other program.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating there.
Absolutely.
I'm totally speculating.
Absolutely. No, it's really crazy stuff. So I don't know. Do you want to wrap up? I feel like there's 16 different avenues to go down here, but we're at a really good time.
Well, I just want to
save some stuff.
Yeah, I feel like we should close kind of where we began this trilogy of episodes, because we were talking about Werner von Braun before.
Yeah.
Werner von Braun actually had this deathbed confession where I was telling you about it before the show. You'd never heard about it. It's often referred to as the final card.
Right.
Where Werner von Braun was giving this deathbed confession. He was saying that the exploration of space will be militarized. And we're going to need to, it already is to a large extent militarized. And we need to come up with these pretexts for militarization.
Right.
First, it's going to be the Russians. Then it's going to be the terrorists.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be asteroids. And then the final card we're going to play, it's going to be extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be real. It's all going to be a lie.
Yeah. So now we're talking about blue beam stuff, right?
Yeah.
like a faked.
And I just found it
psyop
interesting.
Alien invasion.
Yeah, I found it really interesting because, like, just a few months before, like, Three Eye Atlas was discovered, I remember seeing this interview with Jeremy Corbell,
Yeah.
famous for making documentaries about Bob Lazar, among other topics.
Yep.
But he was,
Skinwalker Ranch.
yeah, he was talking about the big lie that's gonna happen, and he's looking forward in time, and he's saying what the big lie is. People are going to be told that there is a hostile extraterrestrial craft slowly approaching the Earth, but none of it's going to be real.
Yeah.
And
what were all the crazy sensational headlines we were getting around Three Eye Atlas?
alien mothership approaching Earth. We're all doomed.
Do you realize you're doing the George Tsoukalos hands meme right now? You're doing the George Tsoukalos aliens hands.
Oh
As you're
no!
talking. You keep doing it.
No, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I wonder. You know what? Once again, I'm saying I wonder if they intercept Three Eye Atlas with Juno, as Avi Loeb is proposing.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll hear about it.
I doubt we will. Like you said, unless there's some kind of false flag operation. Like you said, if they've got all these toys, all this infrastructure, at some point, if they ever really want to use it in a way that's going to be evident to the public, they will need some inciting reason. Like you just pointed out with Von Braun's last card, right? They'll have to construct some reason to say, we need this because, and here it is. Here, boom, right? And then it's out there.
Yeah.
Right? That's the way these things always go. So it does give me a little pause, a little bit of concern, a little sweat on the brow of like, is something like this around the corner in our near future?
Yeah, I don't know if Three Eye Atlas is going to be it.
Yeah.
But I definitely sense things building in that direction.
It feels like they're staging it that way, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. At least from a media perspective. Great. I really wanted to surprise you and go on stuff on like the Aero Club, which is, do you know about the Aero Club?
No.
In terms of a breakaway civilization, it's this club of airmen from like the late 1800s, and they build these crazy airships. And so there's a bunch of stories about sightings in the late 1800s of these kind of airships, and these guys would land, and it kind of is an even further back root of this idea that aerospace technology has been it's been quietly advancing by leaps and bounds but in the shadows by a private group of individuals for a long time. And that they have these really advanced exotic technologies that have been developed. It's very steampunk. But anyway, we could do an episode about that later. But
that sounds like fun.
It is fun. But I think we're just out of time. I think we could do a whole episode on Aero Club. We'll do that some other day.
I know what we forgot to say.
What? The Reagan.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Yeah, we were supposed to do that like 45 minutes ago.
We were supposed to work that in somewhere.
Yeah, we're around the 15 minutes.
Well, we'll get better at that.
Yeah, we'll get better at that. Whatever.
Hey, you know what? People
like and subscribe.
You know
Please leave a comment. Yeah, it really helps us.
Yeah. You know what? People are subscribing, and it just makes my heart smile every time I see that.
Every time we open YouTube, there's like 5 or 6 more subscribers. It's really awesome. So yeah, I feel like that's where the growth is happening. But no matter what platform you're on, if you're still with us at this point, hopefully that means you've enjoyed the show. Please, drop a like, leave a review for the show if you can. That sort of stuff really helps us out. And write us. Leave a comment. We've got a website. If you're whatever platform you're on, you should be able to see a link back to our website or to the RRS page where you can contact us and let us know what you think. We want to know how you feel about the show, what kind of content you want to see from us in the future, and what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying, whatever, right? Let us know. Don't be shy. So yeah, great episode. I feel good. Much better than last week. I actually liked the way last week's episode came out at the end. But man, did I have to edit the shit out of that one. There was such big flubs, and it was a mess. But anyway, it sounded good at the end, I thought. But we were just feeling off. I feel much better today. I feel like we got our flow back a little bit.
I'm still not feeling great, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, we're getting
I'm getting there.
Forget
I think
you got a break coming up, so you'll be all right. You'll get.
I think I'll be
time off.
100% by next week.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, that whatever sickness that was you passed on to me, that hit me like a truck.
You really are stuck on blaming me for this, hey? Like I didn't invent illness. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next week for episode 33. Have a good night.
Good night.